भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयन्ति। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया। भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नष्टिके। So continuing with our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, with the rest of with Maitreya, text number 50 onwards. Tvam na suranamasi sanvayanam kutasthadyah purusha purana tvam deva shaktyam gunakarma yono retasttvajayam kavimadadhe ajaha. You are the original personal founder of all the demigods and the orders of different gradations, yet you are the oldest and are unchanged. O Lord, you have no source so superior. You have impregnated the external energy with the semen of the total living entities, yet you are unborn. The Lord, the original person, is the father of all other living entities, beginning from Brahma, the personality, from whom all other living entities in different gradations of species are generated. Yet the Supreme Father has no other father. Every one of the living entities of all grades, up to Brahma, the original creator of the universe, is begotten by the Father. But he, the Lord, has no father. When he descends on the material plane, out of his causeless mercy, he accepts one of his great devotees as his father to keep pace with the rules of the material world. But since he is the Lord, he is always independent in choosing who will become his father. For example, the Lord came out of the pillar in his incarnation as Nrsimhadev, and by the Lord's causeless mercy, Ahalya came out of his stone by the touch of the lotus feet of his incarnation as Lord Sri Rama. He is also the companion of every living entity as the Supersoul, but he is unchanged. The living entity changes his body in the material world, but even when the Lord is in the material world, he is ever unchanged. That is his prerogative. So this is a special characteristic of Supreme Lord, and living gods are praying to him and praising him for that. That you are unborn, but you give birth to everybody. You are the father of everybody. Because all the living entities, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, all the living entities, they come from me. So, but he himself, he doesn't have a father. Many times people ask, if he is the father of everybody, who's his father? So he does not have a father. Of course, he accepts Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev ji or Dashrath Maharaj as his father, but Prabhupada explains he accepts one of his great devotees as his father to keep pace with the rules of the material world. But in his case, he changes the rules or breaks the rules also. Prabhupada gives example of Nrsimhadev. He accepted a pillar as his father, so he came out of the pillar. But as Lord Varahadev, he came out of the nose of Brahmaji. So there is, and in every case, he is always transcendental. He doesn't change his position, no matter how he appears. That is a Supreme Lord. He's independent of everything. The rules are for us. The rules of the material world are for us, not for him. Even though he came as Krishna, as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but he did not accept Father the way we have to accept. He first appeared in the mind of Vasudevji, and from mind of Vasudevji he transferred to the mind of Devaki. From the mind of Devaki he transferred himself to the womb of Devaki. Still, he just appears like that, oh, he has a father and mother. But we have to understand his position from scriptures. That too, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, we'll make mistakes. But demigods know everything, and this is how they're praying to him. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord impregnates the external or material energy, and thus the total living entities later come out in different gradations, beginning from Brahma, the first demigod, down to the insignificant ant. All gradations of living entities are manifested by Brahma and the external energy, but the Lord is the original father of everyone. So gradations of living entities are manifested by Brahma and the external energy. So towards the beginning, we read about how from Mahatattva and the false ego, everything came into being. And then now from everything that came into being, all the three modes of material nature and the mind is formed and the senses are formed. And this is how the body is developed. And the soul is given by Lord Vishnu, comes from the bodies of Lord Vishnu, those souls who are in the conditioned material world. Brahmaji, what he does, so he has all the ingredients, so he makes all the 8,400,000 species of life. That's all he does. So Brahmaji does the secondary creation, Krishna does original creation. The relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord is certainly one of son and father, and not one of equality. Sometimes in love the son is more than the father, but the relationship of father and son is one of the superior and the subordinate. Every living entity, however great he may be, even up to the demigods, like Brahma and Indra, is an eternally subordinate servitor of the Supreme Father. Is eternally subordinate servitor. Jivera Swaruper Krishnera Nitya Das. Simple as that. And whenever we forget this position, we get into trouble. The Mahat Tattva principle is a generating source of all the modes of material nature. And the living entities take birth in the material world in bodies supplied by the mother material nature in terms of their previous work. The body is a gift of material nature, but the soul is originally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So we take birth according to our karma, and body we get is based on the tattva, material nature, and based on whatever karma we have done. But the soul is originally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Text 51. Tato vayam mat pramukha yadarte babhuvimatman karvam kimte tvam na svachakshu pardehi shakya dev kriyate yad anugrihana. O Supreme Self, please give us, who are created in the beginning from the Mahatattva, the total cosmic energy, your kind direction on how we shall act. Kindly award us your perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in the different departments of subsequent creation. So demigods are also praying to Krishna that we are created in the beginning from the Mahatattva. And they know their body is created like that. But the soul is eternal. Soul comes from up above. So kindly give us your perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in the different departments of subsequent creation that is there to serve you. The Lord creates this material world and impregnates the material energy with the living entities who will act in the material world. All these actions have a divine plan behind them. The plan is to give the conditioned souls who so desire a chance to enjoy sense gratification. But there is another plan behind the creation to help the living entities realize that they are created for the transcendental sense gratification of the Lord and not for their individual sense gratification. This is the constitutional position of the living entities. The Lord is one without a second, and he expands himself into many for his transcendental pleasure. All the expansions, Vishnu Tattvas, the Jiva Tattvas, and the Shakti Tattvas, the personality of Godhead, the living entities, and the different potential energies, are different offshoots from the same one Supreme Lord. The Jiva Tattvas are separated expansions of the Vishnu Tattvas. We are not the same as Vishnu Tattva. We are not God. We are separated. Of course, we are energy of the Lord, energy of the same Lord, but we are not Krishna. We are not Vishnu. The Jiva Tattvas are separated expansions of Vishnu Tattvas. And although there are potential differences between them, they are all meant for the transcendental sense gratification of the Supreme Lord. So we are all here just for one and one only reason, to serve Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Krishnera Nityanas. Ekela Ishvara Krishna or Sabritya. Only one Ishvara is Krishna and everybody else is a servant. Everybody else means all, even the Vishnu Tattvas are there to serve Krishna. Even in the Tattvas, same Vishnu Tattva, but Krishna is Krishna. Some of the Jivas, however, wanted to lord it over material nature in their imitation of the lordship of the personality of Godhead. Regarding when and why such propensities overcame the pure living entities, it can only be explained that the Jiva Tattvas have infinitesimal independence, and that due to misuse of this independence, some of the living entities have become implicated in the conditions of cosmic creation and therefore called Nitya Baddha, so eternally conditioned souls. So some of the Jivas, due to misuse of independence, some of the living entities have become implicated in the conditions of cosmic creation. So means even in the material world, if you look at the infinite number of living entities, but we are still very insignificant in terms of the total number of souls. So somehow, somewhere, for some reason, we fall down, we become conditioned. And here Prabhupada said we become Nitya Baddha. Although we were liberated, we were with Krishna. But when we fall down, it says we are here in the material world since times immemorial. We cannot even remember when we fell down. So that's why we are called Nitya Baddhas, eternally conditioned. Eternally conditioned doesn't mean we were always like that. So at some point, some given point in time, we fell down. But that happened long time back. The expansions of Vedic wisdom also give the Nitya Baddhas, the conditioned living entities, a chance to improve, and those who take advantage of such transcendental knowledge gradually regain their lost consciousness of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. The demigods are amongst the conditioned souls who have developed this pure consciousness of service to the Lord, but who at the same time continue to desire to lord it over the material energy. Such mixed consciousness puts a conditioned soul in the position of managing the affairs of this creation. So the demigods, Prabhupada, of course, they are devotees, they are conditioned souls, but at the same time they are devotees, but somehow they have developed this idea of lording it over material nature. So Krishna gives them the chance to become demigods. So you become, and then you serve. The demigods are entrusted leaders of the conditioned souls, as some of the old prisoners in government jails are entrusted with some responsible work of prison management. So the demigods are improved conditioned souls acting as representatives of the Lord in the material creation. Such demigods are devotees of the Lord in the material world, and when completely free from all material desire, to lord it over the material energy, they become pure devotees, have no desire but to serve the Lord. Therefore, any living entity who desires a position in the material world may desire so in the service of the Lord and may seek power and intelligence from the Lord, as exemplified by the demigods in this particular verse. One cannot do anything unless he is enlightened and empowered by the Lord. We don't need enlightenment, empowerment only for the devotion service. It is required for any area of work. A devotee is always grateful, always surrendered, even to do his material duties. Well, first of all, he doesn't think, actually nothing is material, everything is spiritual depending upon the consciousness. So even our material duties or day-to-day activities, they can become spiritual if we are engaging everything in service of Krishna. If we're utilizing our consciousness in the service of Krishna. And to carry out those activities effectively, successfully, we can pray to the Lord always for his help, for his power, for the intelligence. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mata Smritir Jnanam Apohnam, all recollections, knowledge, etc., as well as all forgetfulness are engineered by the Lord, who is sitting within the heart of everyone. The intelligent man seeks the help of the Lord, and the Lord helps the sincere devotees engaged in his multifarious services. The demigods are interested by the Lord to create different species of living entities according to their past deeds. They are herein asking the favor of the Lord for the intelligence and power to carry out the task. Similarly, any conditioned soul may also engage in the service of the Lord under the guidance of an expert spiritual master and thus gradually become freed from the entanglement of material existence. The spiritual master is the manifested representative of the Lord, and anyone who puts himself under the guidance of a spiritual master and acts accordingly is said to be acting in terms of Buddhi Yoga. So the demigods are here by asking Krishna, give us the intelligence, give us the power, so we can take out the respective duties that he has assigned to us. That is actually humility. We have to understand, we have to develop this humility that we are forever, always, at every single point of time, we are dependent upon the Lord. So there is nothing wrong. In fact, it is helpful in bhakti that we ask for Krishna's mercy, Krishna's help, Krishna's power to carry out any or every of our activities. So this thing, we should, when we get up in the morning and when we, if we chant in the morning or we carry out whatever our activities in the morning, whenever we get up in the morning, early morning, we pray to Krishna. We can pray. We should make a habit that Krishna, please give me the strength, please give me the knowledge, please give me the power to carry out my daily activities for today. Whether it is chanting, whether it's a devotion service, whether we have to cook, whether we have to go to office or college or business or carry out other responsibilities. So when praying this kind of prayers, yes, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is also a prayer. But we are not, if we are at the level of understanding Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and we pray, we chant it in a prayerful mood, saying, yes, Radharani, Krishna, please engage in your service. Fine. Otherwise, we are just chanting the words, which is also good. I'm not saying it is bad. But at the same time, we should be able to pray in whatever language we can from our bottom of our heart, understanding a very precarious, very weak position that we are in. Demigods are praying. All the demigods, how powerful they are. How powerful. The whole world is bowing down to them. All the demons especially are taking shelter of demigods to give them all different energies. And demigods are praying to Krishna, please give us the power and the intelligence to carry out our services. So we should pray like this to Krishna. We should be able to make a personal relationship with Krishna. That's what Krishna wants. Chanting is a relationship, but chanting has become mechanical chanting, or it's not our heartfelt prayers. So chanting is very important for us to improve ourselves, to purify ourselves. It's a topmost prayer. But at the same time, some other prayers that we can make to express our relationship with Krishna, express our gratitude towards Krishna, express our humble position, our meekness in front of Krishna, our surrender to Krishna, our deenta in front of Krishna. And those prayers will be heard very fast. Because we haven't seen Krishna, so we don't develop this relationship. But Prabhupada, we can always pray to Prabhupada. Prabhupada is there. We can just pray. Prabhupada is pure devotee, pure messenger of Krishna, pure representative of Krishna. And he will fulfill all our desires. Prabhupada is real Kalpataru, is a real desire tree. He can fulfill all our desires. We just have to develop the habit of prayers. When prayers become nature, success becomes our life. Definitely we'll be successful. We just have to learn how to pray. Look at demigods, how beautifully they prayed so far, because we are not that expert that can pray in Sanskrit, but we understand the last prayer. Demigods, how demigods are praying. Just imagine all the demigods are lining up with folded hands and really praying, Krishna, please give us the power. So instead of doing anything else, these prayers, if we can understand and remember and make it our habit, yes, I'm going to pray. And really pray. Make our own words, make our own prayers. We can change our words whenever we want to, because depending upon our consciousness, depending upon our situation. But let's make those prayers to Krishna. Let's make this relationship very, very personal. And that's what Krishna wants. So I'll stop here. And in fact, we completed this 5th chapter also today. So Monday we'll start the new chapter. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, bro. So I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.